This is GARIS Masculist MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the theme of masculism and MGTOW. Written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 142, entitled The Pinking of Red Pillar Women. Description. This flyer claims that as millions of men have their MGTOW/masculist consciousness raised, those women who express openly their evolved criteria for judging men based on men's exploitability will be increasingly rejected and shunned by men, forcing women to suppress their true DNA-based exploitative nature regarding men. Now the flyer itself. The pinking of red pillar women. As a masculist, I think the most disturbing idea I have learned from the MGTOW sages, that is, intellectuals, is that of the red pill. That is, the idea that women do not love men for themselves, their personalities, but almost exclusively for their exploitability. If a woman becomes convinced that she cannot extract resources from a man, her vagina will go cold on him. Women evolve this way, and with a little bit of thought, it makes perfect Darwinian sense, because women were critically dependent on men to give them protein from the male hunt that women could not participate in because they had to stay at home with the infants and small children. But as a male, I angrily resent being treated as a cash machine by women. That sours my attitude towards women and puts a real barrier between me and women. I don't trust them and look at them with suspicion in the street. When women are nice to me, I no longer think, oh, she's being nice to me, that's nice, she's nice. Now I think, this woman is being nice to me, so what's she trying to get out of me? When millions of men wake up to this red pill idea, it's going to seriously sour relations between the sexes and put real psychological pressure on women as women learn that men have become conscious of women's sexploitative natures towards men. I suppose I was not conscious of this MGTOW red pill idea until a few years ago, because I was always a high-status male, a PhD full professor. So women saw me as flattering to their own egos, that a male of high prestige would take an interest in them, so they were always nice to me. In the 2000s in the US, I was single and had a string of US girlfriends. All of them were nice to me, and it was I who did most of the dumping, with one exception. I did not get the impression that they saw me as an exploitative asset. These relationships usually lasted only 3 to 6 months, by which time their personalities had become clear and the personality incompatibilities grew to the point of separation. It wasn't until I became fairly poor living in China that my second Chinese wife showed classic red pill behavior towards me, which I recount now. I think my first Chinese wife lied from the beginning of our relationship about what she said she wanted and what she really wanted. She said she would study for a PhD and have interesting conversations with me. After 4 years with her, it had become obvious to me that she was really just a rather lazy, middle-class female who liked having me pay for her overseas trips and having the prestige with her family of being married to a Western University professor. After dumping her, she stole half my savings that she had invested for me, saying it would get a higher return than a bank savings account. She invested that money in her own name, and I couldn't get it back via the Chinese courts because China favors its own citizens in such disputes. My second Chinese wife was definitely a FIP, financially independent person, being also a professor with her own apartment, fully paid off, her own car and pension fund. At the time I met her, I was earning 2.5 times her salary, and I used to describe her as my, quote, sexy scholar. Then I got fired for making an illegal remark to my university president, saying that Western professors would not come to China in large numbers until China democratized and distanced itself from Mao and the 80 million Chinese he killed in the Great Famine, the Lao Gai, that's gulag-like concentration camps for political prisoners, that China still has over 1,000 of today, with 3 to 5 million political prisoners today, and other revolutions. He emailed back saying I had broken the law, and a few months later my contract was not renewed. I was blacklisted from ever getting a prof job in China again. So, I became rather poor. I could survive living modestly on my US pension fund, but I would have to live cheaply on, say, about $200 a month, which is doable in China, given its much lower cost of living compared to rich Western democracies. What was interesting was how my second Chinese wife reacted to my new financial status. I decided to retire at 63. Not that I had much choice. I became a globicator, global educator, making YouTube lecture course videos in PhD level pure math and math physics for PhD level students around the world to be able to teach themselves these subjects for free, as well as making that's electronic, libraries of papers and books on these topics and more, ad-libbing here, with links to full content books, thanks to Google. I had read a few years earlier that the average published research paper was read by one other person, making most of research a waste of time and money. It made me rather cynical, because over my research career I had churned out 150 of these unread research papers. So I felt being a globicator was hugely more significant than being a classroom researcher professor. So my self-image, my self-prestige went up a bit. It was a totally different story with my second wife. Being female and therefore an evolved red pillar, she then saw me as having become an unexploitable as a noun. And she began to look down on me, even though I explained to her the importance to the world of what I was now doing as being a globicator. She didn't care. She became condescending, very bad-tempered, and the sex dried up. She was showing her red pill genes by not vagina wetting to a male whom she could not extract anything from. Classic. Our relationship is now borderline. From time to time, when she would explode in menopausal rage, I would rage back at her, telling that she's a fat mid-50s, and if she pushes me away with her bad temper, then she will very probably not get another man. In brackets, my divorce lawyer from my first Chinese wife told me that a single Chinese woman of 60 has virtually zero chance of finding another husband. It was interesting to watch her transformation as she realized I had become rather poor and that she was the main money earner now. I told her that what I now do is hugely more important for the world, that is revolutionizing the teaching of PhD level subjects. But she didn't give a shit. I'm the same person, I would tell her, with only a little bit less income to my name. Particularly after my first Chinese wife, very fluffy wife, stole half my savings. My second wife is female, so she judges me according to my exploitability, which was critical to women's survival in the distant past. I can understand it, but that doesn't make it any less painful and detestable for men. What interests me in this flyer is what will happen to women once millions of men have similar red pill experiences and seriously begin to confront women with their detestable red pill attitudes, that is, their criteria for judging men's attractiveness, that is, their extremely narrow criteria for vagina wetting as judged by men's exploitability quotient, EQ. When I feel a woman is judging me by my income only, I feel abused by that woman. I don't like her. I look down on her for being so small-minded. I expect to be judged for what I am, for who I am. I'm a world figure in what I do, that is raising the alarm on the rise and threat of massively intelligent machines. I'm regularly on the world's media on this topic. I'm a PhD full professor with 150 publications, half a dozen books. My website has had over 100,000 hits the past few years, etc. This second wife, if she were a man, would admire me, but she doesn't. She's a she, and women care only about men's exploitability by women. This narrowness of criteria is going to cause women massive problems in the near future, as millions of men confront women with this narrowness and lash out against it. It may have made evolutionary sense that women are red pillars, but in today's world, men, this is in capital letters, men hate being treated as cash machines by women, and will increasingly punish women for being like that. There are now millions of MGTOWs around the world who choose to live modestly, spending their money on themselves so as to have more time to do what they really love doing for themselves, and utterly refusing to be manslaves to fluffy manslavers. Women who consciously judge men by their exploitability are going to be constantly rejected by men, and rejected with verbal aggression by men. You treat me like a cash machine, you little shit, so go fuck yourself, because I'm not going to. I'm dumping you, you man-slaving bitch. End quote. As women experience this kind of thing again and again, they will be forced to suppress their red-pillared nature, or rot on the shelf to extinction. Women are going to have to learn to suppress their exploitative criteria for judging men, through fear of pissing off men so much that they end up rotting on the shelf, with no man willing to have a long-term relationship with women. This very negative reaction by men against women, treating them as cash machines, will cause women to pay particular attention to not showing her true nature to men. Otherwise, she will be dumped. As MGTOW/masculism spreads and spreads, then nearly all men will know about the red pill nature of women, and women will know that men know, so that women will be expected by men to suppress expression of their true natures. Women will have to adapt to the new sexual ecology, in which men won't tolerate being treated as cash machines by women. The masculists, that's men's livers, are pushing very hard to create a FIP society, in capital letters. That is, one in which all women are FIPs, that's financially independent persons, so that women will not be forced to have exploitative attitudes towards men to survive. A FIP woman can relax existentially, knowing that she can take care of herself financially and not need to try to manslave some gullible man. It may be in women's DNA to judge men by men's exploitability, but the female brain is also capable of adapting and learning, because what was useful to her in the distant past is now counterproductive to her in a MGTOW/masculist dominated world, in which men will dump her if she expresses her true DNA-based exploitative nature. That nature is now dangerous to her. She has to learn to suppress it, or she rots on the shelf, being manless, loveless, sexless, babyless, poor, and increasingly shunned by a MGTOW/masculist conscious FIP society. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de GARIS. Prof. Hugo de GARIS at yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. YouTube channel name de GARIS, Masculist, MGTOW Flyers.